Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today to our live and remote webinar event, Build Your Incentive and Recognition Strategy for Growth. We're excited to be joined by a number of folks here in the One10 Minneapolis office, as well as all of you remote attendees as well. Without further ado, I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves, and we'll get started here.
Thanks, Sammy. My name is Dave Zielinski. I'm a business journalist, contributing writer for HR Magazine and SHRM, which stands for Society for Human Resource Management. I specialize in engagement topics, recognition issues. I write about HR technology and talent acquisition.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rochelle Taylor. I'm Vice President of Strategic Marketing at One10, and I oversee our incentives and recognition solution area. I have about 20 years experience in performance improvement, and thank you for having me today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gina Druick. I'm a VP of Technology here at One10. I'm pretty new to the incentives and recognition, actually, considering an expert, I guess, at 4.5 years in. I lead a very talented team of 60-plus IT professionals across multiple disciplines. We build and maintain technology solutions for our clients, both custom and product-based, primarily in incentives and recognition space. What I've learned so far, just working in this area, is that a well-designed program with appropriate rewards can be a win-win-win across the board. So our clients are delighted because they're meeting their ROIs and their goals. Their participants, whether they're employees or channel, are happy because they're meeting their goals and being rewarded. And of course, we're happy when our clients are happy. So it's an exciting space to work in. I'm happy to be here today as well.
I'll take a moment and just share a little bit about One10 for those of you that may not be familiar. So this organization is founded on a key principle, which is with one team and one goal, we believe you can make an exponential impact in your company. And it really is as simple as starting with one employee, one channel partner, one salesperson, and we know that when you drive the right behavior and you motivate your people, you will absolutely see results. And so within our name and within our philosophy, that is a foundation of what we believe in.
So we want to ensure that everyone receives some good takeaways for their own incentive and reward programs for our discussion today. So before we get into the heart of the dialogue, then we can talk about what's happening today in terms of engagement from an internal and external stakeholders perspective. What kind of trends are you seeing out there?
Well, this slide that we're showing here has some pretty staggering statistics on it. And whether you're an HR professional or a sales professional, I think they'll resonate. So we often will get up and talk to clients and ask them what's keeping them up at night. And we have statistics that show 1 in 5 people, salespeople, actually are the only ones that meet their sales goals. And that's unfortunate. It's a very low percentage. And so when we go into these corporations, this is often a challenge that they have. And we have to counsel and help them determine how best to solve that. Another interesting statistic from Gallup is that 68.5% of the U.S. workforce is disengaged. And that has all sorts of cascading trickle-down effects, negative productivity, loss of sales volume, and just culturally, it can lead to some unintended consequences. And the last statistic is that acquiring a new customer is up to 25 times more expensive than retaining an existing one. So we see this a lot in the channel space when you are trying to engage and make sure that you have market share within your channel and that your distribution partners understand how to talk about your product, they understand what your value proposition is. That is much easier to maintain and hold on to than trying to get a new customer. And so I think that these are 3 ugly truths that are out there today in the world.
And I think from SHRM's perspective, we're seeing how effective recognition and incentive programs continue to impact employee retention. In our most recent study on the topic, we found that almost 70% of respondents said effective recognition positively impacts employee retention. I think it was the third year in a row of the study that retention was HR leaders' top concern. So that says quite a bit, I think. And I think that just reflects the low unemployment rate, where employees have more opportunities than ever to move to new jobs if they'd like, if they feel dissatisfied, and not recognized for their contributions. So, yeah, I think we can all agree that effective incentive and recognition programs can help businesses resolve some of the problems and ugly truths that we've been talking about. So let's talk about some specific strategies or technologies that can help address some of these common challenges.
Sure. So first, let's look at some of the challenges that are out there. One of the biggest challenges that we see with our clients has to do with their data and their programs. So especially our larger clients, our bigger companies, have very disparate data, disparate programs. The data itself isn't very clean. And what we find is there's pockets of activity that have suboptimal results.
So I think also, if I could add to that, in addition to the data being separate, we have companies that have different programs, housed on different systems, managed through different budgets. And so one of the pain points I think that companies have today is how do they wrap their arms around all of the information that's coming into or out of their company. So if you're an HR leader, you have perhaps a service anniversary program that you manage, you have a peer-to-peer program that you may manage, and are those existing in one consolidated portal? Usually the answer is no.
Right.
And then you go to your Salesforce and you look at perhaps a SPIF program that you're running. Maybe you have some variable compensation program that you're running, and it's very hard to tie all those or connect all those dots and tie them together. And so one of the intentional things that we did in the incentives and recognition solution area was with our PerformX platform, giving our clients the ability to house all of those things in one place. So there are many different inputs that come into this, imaginary funnel, if you will, and that all goes through the platform. And in the end, you can measure budget, you can measure results, and you can actually see meaningful behavior that you can track and, leverage.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you're talking about the disparate programs, some of them, in today's world might be manual, maybe they have a tool here or there, something that they organically grew up using, Excel or something. The ability to really pull that all in, to have it all integrated in this multi-tiered platform that we're showing on the slide is very powerful.
And to that manual topic, I would say that still leaves a good bit of room for human error.
Yes.
And so when you have someone literally looking at Excel spreadsheets and trying to audit those and make sense of the numbers, sometimes there are flaws in that method.
Sure.
So another challenge that I would like to get Dave's feedback on is program engagement. We often have clients that come to us and say, oh my gosh, I started this program and now nobody uses it. So I just wonder how often you hear similar.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems connected to that is one-size-fits-all thinking around recognition. I want to reference a study that I found. Burson Deloitte last year found that the top barrier to an effective recognition program was failure to understand what employees really value in recognition. That comes down to just providing more choice, custom options. What motivates the two of you won't necessarily motivate me. I think managers can fall into the trap of thinking what motivates them naturally motivates their employees. So I think that's one of the bigger issues that we see.
So there are some principles of motivation, I'm sure. You've read some of the research that I've read, and
Sure.
it goes all the way to the top. If you don't have management support, if you don't have good communication, if people don't understand what they've been tasked with, it can lead to lack of engagement. They feel like they don't know what they need to do to earn, and it's not being clearly communicated, and maybe their manager hasn't checked in with them to make sure that they understand and that they're okay.
Sure. Yeah, and I think, using rewards and recognition and incentives to kind of reinforce cultural values is important too. This is what we value. Here's how we make it real through rewards and incentives.
So I've also seen incenting the wrong behavior. This is a little tricky because it's not always obvious. Mm-hmm. And you and I were talking the other day about you actually had a real experience in a company that you worked for that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, so I was in the services group for a while, professional services, and we had this notion of a billable bonus. So what we were trying to do was obviously maximize billing, but in the end, what we got was hours. And so the consultants were giving, putting their time cards in, we were getting hours, but we weren't necessarily getting results and deliverables. And it really reinforced with me that you get what you measure and you get what you pay for. And in this case, hours wasn't necessarily what the client was valuing. So when we switched over to more of a delivery-based incentive, where we were really doing the bonus based on delivery, a little bit harder to measure, obviously, than hours, but definitely increased the client satisfaction and made us a more effective and efficient organization.
And that can, that was a billable hours example, but that can also translate to products. So when you have a company maybe that has a new product coming out on the market and they want to get all their salespeople excited about it, so they run a spiff or an incentive and get all the focus on that new go-to-market product, all of a sudden the sales force is turning their sights away from the tried and true and perhaps the more profitable product and instead selling what they're being bonused on.
Right, exactly.
So
the programs work. Yeah. You just have to organize them accurately, right?
Design, program design.
Yeah.
It seems to me that today's employees are more sophisticated than ever when it comes to how they evaluate incentive and recognition programs. Mm-hmm. How important do you two think it is to be transparent about what specific types of behaviors are being rewarded, what the rewards or incentives are going to be, so the programs don't end up being demotivational or have unintended consequences?
Yeah, I think the technology reward mix is really important. Similar to what you were saying earlier, matching the person to what motivates them. And then just for our clients, it's the ability to be able to leverage any of those reward types for their channel partners, employees, sales team. So it's really the mix, having the mix available is really important to our clients.
Mm-hmm. And do you see value in a good mix of cash and non-cash awards?
I think people want the power of choice. And in today's day and age, as I think you touched on, everyone is motivated by something different. And regardless of whether it's cash or merchandise or even travel, we have many, many clients that value the experience. And sometimes the psychological connection between having earned something that takes you to a memorable place it is something you can't rival, you can't match it.
Yeah, right. I mean, every time you think back on that
those
trip,
memories.
you remember what you did to achieve it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And that's lasting value.
So the final challenge that we're going to talk about, global challenge, is around the lack of leadership. So I think it's very important to really have that tone from the top, because you could have disparate programs, you could have, managers throughout the organization knowing that this works, but unless you have that leadership that's coming in and saying this is what we're doing, organizing it, investing in it, believing in it, you really don't have, it's again suboptimal, right? So to really have the most efficient, most effective programs that tone from the top and that leadership buy-in is really important in an authentic way, right? So to say, just put some money aside and say do the incentive programs and not really believe in it won't work either. So it's a culture thing, it's a tone from the top, as I said. It's really leadership buy-in is important to the programs.
And I think just because you have technology, if there's not if you build it, they will come, mentality, you do have to genuinely check in on people, make sure that you are recognizing them, even in small ways. I think sometimes people underestimate the power of a thank you.
Oh, sure.
And people just want to feel appreciated. And
Sure.
so I do believe that, leadership, that's a very easy way for leadership to show that they care.
So now that we've addressed some of the problems that a good incentive and recognition program can consult, what do you recommend as maybe a kind of a more holistic or multifaceted way to address those issues?
Sure. So at 110, we have our latest incarnation of our research and platform is sort of around this value chain of inform, engage, reward, and evaluate. And we think that each one of those areas is important and satisfies the kind of goals that we've talked about so far.
So I can elaborate on that a little bit, Dave. The inform piece of this puzzle is the notion that a secret program is not a successful program. And, people need to be communicated to in a number of ways. We certainly have the ability to message in app. We can SMS. You can remind people through emails and other strategies. But at the end of the day, a multi-pronged approach to communication is what we recommend. The engage part of the equation is really where the magic happens. So this is when you're seeing behaviors in real time, whether that's people recognizing one another for a job well done, perhaps it's your salespeople in different regions moving different products, but this is where you can glean the meaningful insights from the platform once you have people engaged and taking action in the system. And then the reward part we've mentioned. Reward is all about giving somebody something that is meaningful to them. So the power of choice is something that we offer and we recommend based on what the demographics of the people are, really. And finally, the evaluate part of the equation is just that we are in a fast-paced world today, and things are always changing, things are always agile, and if you're not constantly keeping tabs on how your program is doing or measuring those KPIs that are important to you, your program could go stale. So this evaluate component is in the center of it all so that you're constantly informed about what's happening within your company and can make smart decisions.
Yeah, it's a really powerful part of it too, because you now have the data to be able to say, are we getting the ROI that we are investing in? Are we reaching our goals? Are our participants reaching their goals? And really just, putting out there is this theory that we had that if we do this, they'll do that. Is it working? And if it's not, how do we adjust it? So the evaluate is a really important part of it.
So can you share some real-world cases of how 110 has helped clients enhance or improve their recognition and incentive strategies?
Sure, we have tons of examples. A couple that we selected to talk about here. First one is a company that we work with, a client. They are a multi-brand technology solutions provider. We provide a platform for them to develop and manage their incentives, and it's through their channel. So it's really, the interesting one about this is just the breadth of it. Several hundred programs per month that their channel partners are able to create, track, and reward. So it really shows that single point of truth, that one portal, can be very powerful in a large channel type environment.
It's really their key communication tool.
It is,
that's what
yeah.
the salespeople log into first thing in the morning to see what's the rebate or the spiff.
Yeah, so the unique part of this is really the breadth of it and how much really flows through it on a monthly basis. Another example, we have a global pharmaceutical program, a client, and I think most people know how competitive pharma can be, especially in sales. So we've been doing for a couple of decades now these programs with this client, and it's their own sales channel. So it's not their own salespeople, I should say, not the channel program. And it's been very successful for them.
So what's interesting about this one is that they have aligned certain core values or certain behaviors that they want to reinforce within their organization to this incentive, if you will. So it's an incentive and a recognition hybrid.
Yeah,
I would
it's
say.
kind of molded into one, yeah. Another example that we have up here is an office equipment manufacturer. And this is an interesting one because it's a channel example. And it's the type of example where our clients don't necessarily know who their end salespeople are. That's the type of channel that they're in. So it's an incentive program for those salespeople, but it's also what we call a claims-based program. So the end participant has to go in and say, hey, I sold this piece of office equipment. Here's, upload some proof of it. And then we have an audit process on the back end to match that to the sales that we're seeing. So that it's very powerful for our clients because now they have some visibility into the sale and they can incent the right behavior and they can design their programs accurately, and because of that claims and audit process, all automated, they have a way of paying.
And they actually get intel because they don't know who's actually selling their products. So once these people start to claim, now all of a sudden they can make smart decisions and understand which
quality analytics.
That's right.
With that,
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's just the power of data you really represented there. Another example, it's not on the screen, but we do a very comprehensive program for one of our automotive OEMs where we have a full suite of integrated marketing services. So we do corporate-wide and regional incentive programs. We also do training and certification, product information, communications. So it's a real-world example of how everything One10 does in a single portal can make our, in this case, an automotive OEM, it's a very powerful tool for them. Those are some of our success stories.
Okay.
So we've talked about our technology, and I'm sure that you have many examples in your life where you've encountered similar types of technology, but I think that it's important to point out that it's a tool. It's the means to the end. Mm-hmm. And what we really focus on is communicating in the beginning, designing the program the right way, utilizing the tool, and then evaluating and analyzing all throughout the life cycle.
Yeah, so PerformX is the next iteration of our incentives and recognition platform. And I like to say it that way because there's so much thought leadership that has gone into this iteration and this version of what we do at One10. Years and years and decades with the clients that we just talked about and the people that are still here and contributing to it. So it really all kind of starts with the user experience. PerformX is a mobile-first and responsive designed platform. Basically, from a mobile-first perspective, what we're saying is that we design it for the smallest screen, for the best use on that smallest screen, and then we add features and content as the renderings get larger on the bigger screen.
And if I can just add to that, one of the reasons that we felt that was important is that more times than not, people are remote these days when they work, right. Especially salespeople. Right. So if you're targeting that particular demographic, being able to easily access something on your phone and have it be user-friendly is critical.
And make sure, that it renders properly and that it's useful. Yeah. Beyond the user experience, obviously our platform provides that ease of use across multiple devices that we just talked about. And I like to think about it as a value chain as well. So we have the sort of INR value chain, and this is kind of from a technology perspective, it's the power of that data coming in from the disparate data sources, going through our rules engine to calculate the rewards, providing the rewards, and then doing all sorts of graphical and tabular reporting. And so that's kind of the value chain on the technology side that we provide through the platform. A full-featured messaging, security, in-app messaging, announcements, emails, text, like Rochelle was saying, that multiple sources for communication is really important because everybody has their phone with them now. Everybody has a certain way they like to be communicated with, whether it's I log into this portal every day and I just want to see in the upper right-hand corner everything that I need to worry about, or why don't you just push it to me and then I'll worry about it when I see it on my phone. So that multi-channel communication is really important, especially for the informed part.
Sure. It's easier to manage and evaluate programs kind of at a glance because of the one-stop shop.
Exactly. Yeah, and try to do through what we call content cards on the home page, what's the most important thing I need to worry about today, and where do I stand in this program or in this competition. So also I wanted to kind of harken back a little bit to some of those global challenges that we talked about at the beginning and how we think that our platform is solving for those things. So we talked a little bit about the disparate data programs, so it's clear that now we're bringing that in, integrating it into a single source of truth, or that one hub. Also program engagement, so the platform itself is based on the principles of motivation that we talked about, so that's all baked in with the years of experience and thought leadership of the people at 110. So I always talk about, you don't just buy a tool, you buy all the people, right, that build and maintain that tool for the clients. Also, we talked about incenting the wrong behavior and demotivational programs. Well, Performex enables our companies to not only provide the right mix of programs, but also that evaluation at the end to make sure that your programs are hitting your goals. So that you end up getting the right mix and you motivate rather than demotivate. And then there's that lack of leadership. So oftentimes what we see is the investment in the platform itself provides that, tone from the top that we now have this is what we're rallying behind. It's brandable, so we're just going to put all of our branding on there. It's easy to use. We can launch it quickly for you. And then that is the leadership of our clients saying this is what we're using now. So it kind of, we feel, addresses a lot of those global problems in the marketplace today.
What about any new technologies, for example, AI or machine learning, that are adding capabilities to these platforms today? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, we're definitely keeping our eye on the latest, AI and machine learning, especially around what I've mentioned several times now, the evaluation part. So to the degree that we have all of this powerful data, we can inform or leverage AI to say, what would what if analysis on how should I be evaluating and evolving my programs. Also looking at technologies like blockchain, things like that. How could those be leveraged within our programs? So we're always keeping an eye out on the latest trends.
This is not AI related, but I would say from a functionality standpoint or a feature set standpoint that we're trying to keep pace with what's happening in social and things that people might experience in their everyday lives, whether that's on Facebook or Twitter. So the concept of having a leaderboard is something that people are familiar with, right? They know what a feed is, a recognition feed, and it inspires this friendly sense of competition. And so I would add that I think the ability to have social influence, including leaderboards, gamification is something that people obviously identify with. So I think even though we're in a B2B segment, having the consumer experience and rivaling what people are using every day is very important.
It's important for it to be consumer grade because people are used to interfacing with technology, and it shouldn't be something less than what they do in their personal life. Those are some things that we're keeping an eye on.
Sure.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. Let's give you all a round of applause. I do want to open up the floor here with our live audience for a few questions. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah,
Sure.
let's do it.
Okay. Do we have any questions in the audience? Yeah, Martha.
Dave, from your research and experience, what are the top concerns of HR leaders today?
I would say one of the top concerns is definitely employee retention. I mentioned earlier that for three years in a row, the SHRM study on recognition, HR leaders mentioned that retaining their employees was the top concern. That's because they just have more opportunities than ever to move today, a lot of job openings, greener pastures. So recognition plays an increasingly important role in keeping people satisfied in their jobs.